I have a gentleman here today that he gave Grant Cardone well over $100,000 to invest. So tell me, how did you get involved with Grant Cardone?
We invested in his sales course, Cardone University, and it helped me a lot. I became one of the top producers in my region within 3 months. Then I started hearing about Cardone Capital, how it was one of the best investments ever, or basically there's no better thing in real estate. And because the sales training worked out so well for me, it was so profitable, I was like, yeah, I mean, this guy's legit, so I'm going to invest with him.
I mean, everything that he said when he talked about business was all stuff, they work your ass off and follow every lead and right. And just kind of all that sort of stuff and bust your ass and become more valuable to your boss. And I assume a lot of that's in there, right? And that's all good stuff. And so when I first heard of Grant Cardone talking about business, I said, well, yeah, that's good motivational stuff. I thought so too.
I felt like he wouldn't steer me wrong just because the sales training went so well. So I was like, yeah, I mean, Uncle G is not going to do me wrong. So I was definitely wrong about that.
Based on your pleasant experience with business training, you decided to throw in with Grant Cardone's company, and you invested well over $100,000, correct?
Correct.
And
so they were saying how I would get a 6% preferred return. And
when you say were you in a seminar situation?
No. So I saw a few videos on his YouTube channel about it. The sales reps would tell me the same thing. 6% preferred, 15% IRR is the goal, but they're going to go much higher than that. If the property makes 6% or less, they do not get the 40% cut, the 60-40 split.
They do. They get 40% of the money.
No, they said they don't.
But they do if they get you 6%.
If anything over 6%. So if they get 8%, the 6%, I get the whole thing. And then the 2%, they get 40% of that.
That's 60-40 split. I was blown away by, because I'd actually ascertained that from watching one of his first videos, and where he talked about, he said, I just cut a check for $1.2 million to the partners and $800,000 to myself. And I go, well, that's a 60-40 split.
But I have no documents to show how much actually they're taking. So, and because then I saw your video as well, where it showed that he gets 800,000, the investors get 1.2 million. That's exactly a 60-40 split. So it leads me to question what's really going on.
Interesting. So you actually caught my video on that. Yeah, that's first thing. I'm a numbers guy, so that's first thing. But you do know by the statements that you've gotten basically roughly 4.75%. Is that what you said?
The first 2 years, it was 4.5. In January of 2023, now it's 4.7.
Okay. And how long is that money tied up for?
There's no set time. So their goal is 10 years. In his investment calls, he has monthly investment calls where we can join in, but it's basically one giant upsell to the next fund. He's been claiming for 3 years. I pop in once a year and it's always the same thing, invest in the next fund. And I'm going to refinance the older funds, do a cash out refinance so that all the current investors get their equity back. They still have a hold in the deal, so they still get some cash flow. So it's almost like the Burr method. Nothing yet.
Never happened though. He's never resold it and made a profit and gave you any money back other than the interest.
He's done it in the earlier funds, which I think him and his close entourage are the only investors.
But you weren't a part of that.
No. I joined one of the bigger funds that came out later when he went public to non-accredited investors. One thing that I found interesting was I had 4.5% return exactly, which I thought was kind of odd. It's an exact number. And then I saw your video on how somebody was commenting that non-accredited investors in the black and white get 4.5 and then accredited gets 6%. So I thought that was an odd feature. I was told 6%, but I'm getting 4.5, and that's written in the black and white. So that's something I missed when I was younger.
Well, that's interesting. Well, the devil's always in the details. Okay, yeah. in the contract.
I was very naive. I put half of my money in the fund, and the other half, I decided to do it on my own. And within 3 months, I 8 times my money.
You're making 4.5% on the money that you invested with Grant Cardone. How well have you done for yourself in comparison?
So cash on cash is over 30% annually. And then equity-wise, it's almost 1,000%. It's about 850 to 900%. So that was just a huge eye-opener, and my money's locked in.
So you were able to take your own cash and just stomp the returns in comparison. You've made up to almost $1 million with roughly the same amount of cash. Is that fair to say?
Over 2 million.
Over 2 million. Yeah, using your own cash, investing for yourself.
And the annual cash flow is over 6 figures, easy.
And then on the other side of that, the same cash that you've had Grant, what's the total return you've had over 3 years? Maybe $15,000 or something like that?
A little bit more than that.
maybe.
Not impressive.
Gotcha. And you have no control. You can't say, hey, I want to get my money back out. Do they have any option for you to pull your money out?
They said there is. It's like there's a lot of hurdles and there's fees, quite a few fees. So I wouldn't get the whole amount back. There has to be some drastic thing happening in my life that I have to prove. Yeah, so it was a good reminder. It was a very good learning lesson where literally doing that one thing was a learning lesson that cost me a couple $1,000,000.
And for somebody young like yourself or somebody, would you advise them to invest with Grant Cardone?
Maybe if you work 100 hours a week and you don't have time to do anything else. But at that point, just do a REIT. There's a few stocks that do 10% returns, or even other syndicates that have much better splits and much higher returns.
Well, I think you can put it in the bank or even on bonds. You can do almost.
I just opened a savings account that pays over 4%. No questions asked.
Wow. And you can pull your money back out, correct?
It's completely liquid.
Once you know what you can do with your money as an investor yourself, you never touch stuff like that, right?
Completely agree. Yeah, just when other people are doing it, it's they're gonna win, not you.
Yeah. And so why did you jump in and take my mentorship?
When I learned a lot when I was doing everything on my own.
Utilizing the book, you mean?
So when I was buying real estate before I knew you were around, I did a few things that were just ideas that popped up in my head. This guy's getting divorced. Let me jump on this. Let me look at every single property that's in the market, and let me see if there's inefficiencies that I can capitalize on.
That's right. I recall. So without even reading my book, you had already made some money in real estate. When you saw me, what you saw is that some of your original ideas that you had created and made money on, you had said, that's exactly what I did already, right?
Correct. It was more me doing trial and error. And then you essentially, by the way you spoke, I was like, okay, he actually knows what he's speaking about. There's no fluff. And you actually had systematized the things that I was doing randomly in the beginning and that I slowly learned. And that's what drew me to you. And I read the book just because it's almost like you've refined what I was doing very roughly, essentially. Mm-hmm. So I feel like the efficiency would be very profitable for me in the next few years.
And now that you've been in the mentorship, I assume you've only been a week or two into it, I think. But what do you think so far? A lot of good information, or what do you think?
Definitely a ton of information. Luckily, I have the time where I can actually really just absorb everything that's going on in there. And I really like it.
And what do you think of your classmates?
So I like that a lot of them are ahead of me, or at least the ones that I've met are ahead of me. And so I feel like there could be a very good resource to bounce ideas off of.
Yeah, that's an interesting statement you just made. And this is what's really cool. You feel trapped when you don't have any role models around. In other words, when you're the biggest fish that you know, it's nice to get a bigger fish bowl where you're not the biggest fish, where you have something to aspire to. And that's what's really cool to me. You think you're doing great, and then you go, oh, wait a minute, I can do better, because you can see somebody else is doing a lot better. So that's an interesting observation. I appreciate that.
And they also show me that there's other doors as well. So if I only can see 3 different avenues to do things, but then speaking to other people that are much more advanced than me, now I see 20 different ways to do things.
I have some really talented people in my class, people that have made $1 million in a year, or a couple $1 million in just 2 years. The difference of having a mentor and having really a brain trust, which is what we have within the group now, where people are applying and doing certain things, and people recognize, because everybody's open book and shares. I tell everybody, be cryptic with your deals, keep your deals close, make sure you have it or own it out before you ever share. But once they do have it to that point, the people in the class share with each other, and it just opens people's eyes and go, you know what, I have that same opportunity right here in my city, 1,000 miles away. And that's the beauty is that so many of the opportunities that people learn in my mentorship are basically things that happen every day somewhere. In just about every state in the USA, there's the same kind of opportunities reproduce and happen everywhere. And now you know that firsthand. Well, I appreciate you sharing your experience with Grant. And so tell me about the sales calls again. Once you get in the door, it's constant upsell, right?
For the Cardone Capital specifically, there's monthly investor update calls, easily more than half. The first few like 10 minutes is probably just motivation and getting everybody in a good mood. And then it's just upsell into the next fund. Wow. You got to do it. I remember there's one lady, she was a single mom, saying how she had 300,000 saved and that's all she had. What should she do with it? And Grant was just like, put it in the fund, put it in the fund.
Mhm.
In my head, I was like 300 grand at 4.5%. That's only like 1,000 a month. How's she going to survive off of that?
Yeah, that must have been painful to hear as you became more advanced an investor. Your returns from him as opposed to what you were doing on your own, huh?
Luckily, I lived very frugally in my 20s where those mistakes weren't devastating for me. It was more of a very hard learning lesson.
Sure.
There was another guy that he invested 550,000 and he showed how his monthly cash flow was I think 1450. So
1,450 on $500,000.
or maybe it was 2,500. It was about that.
Hey, you guys want to see what a $550,000 investment into Cardone Capital gets you? What is that? 1,200. So that's $1,500 and 1,250. It's okay.
But
That's a 5% return, I guess, right?
so, correct. But easily in finding a good property, you can get a 30% cash on cash return, not
Yeah.
including the tax benefits, equity pay down, appreciation. It's a no-brainer to do it yourself.
Is that something that what I like to call fake gurus or the scammers, is that they try to factor in every tax benefit and add it to the bottom line?
I'm not sure if I understand the question.
In other words, they'll say you're going to get X return by the time you figure in your depreciation and this, that, and the other things. In other words, they try to include the taxes, the depreciation, and every break that you get from it, not just this is what you make on your money.
Oh yeah, everything's tax deductible. I remember even the sales course, I was told it's tax deductible, but it wasn't because I was a loan officer as a W-2 employee. So it was not tax deductible, and I had to pay the IRS back for the tax credit.
So did you get the feeling that the salespeople that were talking to you were commission based?
Obvious because I was joining a sales course that the salespeople were obviously going to be hard chargers. I already pretty much had the mindset that I was going to buy it just because my friend was making a killing selling solar with that training, and then I did a killing with it as well in loans.
So you recommend Grant Cardone's his course as far as being for sales? You got some value out of that, and that was worthwhile.
I recommend it as one of several things to do, not the only thing to do.
Gotcha.
And I think it's great, but you don't even need to get the course. I think the books are enough. All the books, and just reread the books and then just execute. A lot of my peers and a lot of people I've seen just don't execute.
Does he even have an investment course? Is there such a thing as a Cardone investment course?
I remember there was a real estate investing course and a real estate investing book. The book was a short book that basically was just invest in his fund. I don't know what I think his real estate investment course was 10 or 20 grand. I never got into that because I was already making money on my own.
People want to know this stuff, and so it's kind of nice talking to somebody that's actually been there. I have a gal in the class that she said she went to a Grant Cardone event. I think maybe it was Vegas. She flew there,
Right.
She rented a hotel, went there, and she said that she was upset because they had like a young man, the way she described, had brought a young man up on stage and had like 1,000 people sign it, but to spend the $2,500 or the $25,000, whatever it was, I don't know the specifics on that. But she said she just felt like it was a big sales pitch.
Yeah, I went to one of his 10X cons. I went to the one in Miami. It's nonstop pitches. I had a blast because I was in Miami.
You're smart for that.
So
Yeah.
my friends and I were like, all right, look, we're not going to buy anything. Let's just socialize with people that look like fun and then go party. We'll show up late every day. And then that's what we did.
You got to give Grant credit on that. Yeah, hosted in Vegas.
So when people ask me about 10X Con, I'm just like, Miami was great. The big thing, and then that I just recommend for everyone is no one's going to care about your money more than you. So don't ever hand it to someone else in terms of investing. So buying courses and stuff, I think that's great, but be very careful because most of the people out there are fake. And I only learned that I was only able to start spotting who was fake when I got in the business myself. So when I started investing in real estate, I would just go on YouTube just to see. And in general, I knew that most people didn't know what they were talking about.
Right. Something doesn't smell right. You kind of, I mean, even if you're inexperienced, a lot of people, I think, like, something doesn't seem right here. And when something doesn't seem right, there's probably something that's not right.
Exactly. Because before I bought my first house, these guys sounded great. I was like, wow, I'll never be like these guys. Bought my first house. I was like, these guys, it smells like something from the bathroom. So get in the business first and then see who you might want to follow. That's the way I would do it. And also I became a loan officer to learn real estate as well. So that also helped me a lot to just know how the banking process works on borrowing money. That really helped as well. So get in the business, and also don't really look for a mentor until you're actively looking for houses, so then you can actually spot who's fake and who's not. One of the things I actually did appreciate from Grant Cardone was he always emphasized to save most of your money. And so I was doing that, but I didn't realize it was save the money to put it in his fund. But if you just save most of your money and don't spend it, it's liberating on
What do
you can
you
do.
think about his advice on sell your house?
That's a loaded question.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you're told to sell your house and invest in his fund, that's what he's
This is the best asset class you can be in. If you got a house, refinance it right now because you're not going to be able to sell it.
You will be crippling yourself. But definitely, like, I used to own a lot of crypto as well. I invested in many different things. I crashed and burned in so many things. It wasn't just Cardone. And however, I actually doubled my money with crypto right before it went 10x essentially. But I didn't mind because I sold all that to have a down payment for a house. Only sell an asset when you're going to get a better one. And that's what I did, and it worked out great.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That's a good point. That's what, people ask me, why you got, they'll say, why did you sell that beautiful building? Yeah, I say, because I sold it because I got a deal on one 3 or 4 times bigger. I say,
Exactly.
traded it up. I just trading up.
One thing that I see with a lot of like my peers, so I'm 33, a lot of guys are scared to get started. Guys and girls are scared to get started. Even my first deal, I mean, it was okay. It was market value, but even that 12% return on cash, and compared to the down payment I put in, 4 times the down payment I put on it within a year, because I was buying in 2020.
I don't know
So-
what you mean, 4 times the down
So,
payment. What
so
is it?
basically, I bought a house at market value in the beginning of 2020, $50,000 down. 6 months later, 9 months later, the equity was over 200 grand.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So, and that was my worst deal.
And when you
and-
bought that, see, a lot of this, I say it all the time, everybody's a rock star when things are really good. And then, you know what I mean? And things were really good, right?
Oh, yeah.
Kind of went up like a hockey stick, and that happens at times. But what people don't see is on the downside is that they can drop like just as fast. And you probably saw that same property that probably doesn't still have the same equity today that it had then with the interest rate going up, correct?
According to Zillow, so last year it was worth about a little over 600,000, and now it's like 490. But I'm still over, but instead of being over 200 grand, now I'm over like 70 grand.
Well, you still own this property?
I haven't
Yeah,
sold any of them.
I mean, it's fine to hang on to property like that, but what I'm saying is these cycles happen where, for whatever reason, there's a lot of different reasons. But the economy's good, maybe the area that you're in is doing especially well for whatever reason.
So for the past few, I have 3 friends, and if you guys are watching, I love you guys. So they're flippers. They're like, their full-time job was flipping, and I would always tell them, hey, have a few rentals so you could pay for your mortgage when things turn down, because it's only going to go up for so long. Then when it goes down, you want to be able to weather the storm. One of them listened, the other ones didn't. And now they all have flipping mentorships. So I just thought it was funny. They went into teaching flipping once the economy went down, and they couldn't actually make money off of flips anymore.
Oh,
Like, anybody can flip when the market's going up.
yeah. Well, that's why I say everybody's a rock star when the market's going up. It's kind of shock for people that have never seen values go down in the last 10 years. I mean, only now we're starting to see values go down, but it's been 10 years. Prior to that things were kind of normal and going up quickly for a little bit there. And I've seen several cycles in the last 40 something years. And I started at the highest of inflation in 1981.
I also got lucky because my parents invest in real estate. So they always told me, own stuff that will rent out when it's bad, when times are bad. So like in 2009, they had no issue because all their rentals were rented.
Yep.
And so when I was buying, that was my intent. What's near all the buildings, what's near all the shopping centers, and what's going to be rented out. And I've had no issue at all.
No, yeah, you over time there's things that change, and anything you got, if you're going to keep a rental basis for understanding why it's going to stay full, like that's a restaurant I bought behind me right there, and that's and I made 200 grand on that in a very short time. Property like that, it's well located, it's right in the middle of an affluent community, and it'll always stay full. It'll always stay rented. People always need a restaurant convenient to thousands of people live a rock's throw away. It's good advice from your folks for sure. But even things have changed to a degree, like I can tell you, I've seen a lot of different stores. They used to have camera stores. Used to be quite popular. Video cameras, that sort of thing. That shit is gone. Very, very few camera stores can survive anymore. Big part because Amazon and some of the big retailers just absolutely crush them. I mean, Best Buy can barely stay open. You know what I mean? There's been quite a few. Circuit City was a big one, lasted for a little while. I mean, you can get a jacuzzi sent to you from Amazon. A hot tub. You can get washer dryer,
Portable home.
Yeah, I don't doubt it. I got reasons not to like Amazon too. I've owned some manufacturing companies. And once you get in and you start selling through Amazon, I mean, they got their finger on your pulse. And as soon as they feel it beating hard, they go find a copycat manufacturer in China. And then all of a sudden they stop buying your stuff. I have 1,000 pieces ready to ship to them. They're not ordering. They're keeping their stock at zero. And then when people go to buy my product, they say, we're out of stock, but people that buy this also buy this. And it's the shit that they have from China. So it's horribly cutthroat. Terrible.
I also had one more piece of advice, which was most of the guys selling e-commerce stores, Amazon FBA, flipping business, Airbnb business, they're selling courses. Like that's what they're doing.
Yeah, I know.
So,
well, I know. I can see through it all the time. I mean, the key words to look for in fake gurus is deals. Deals. I've done a bunch of deals. Team is a big phony.
Guaranteed.
Mindset has been destroyed for me. The guys that don't know how to make money in real estate use mindset all the time and tell you it's just a mindset. You just got to get your mindset. And but if it's like, look at the whole time we've been talking, every property that's come up on behind me is a property that I personally, every property that has come on the screen behind me is one that I personally negotiated and purchased. I mean, I bought it. It might be exception of one property there that I didn't own, but it was one that I did an assignment without having to own it. Like I said, I could talk all day. Just every time I see a picture, it changes the subject for me in my mind. And this is just a fraction of what I purchased. That's the kind of stuff that people, they don't, for whatever reason, you know what I mean? I mean, see some guy that's perfectly manicured and every day, he's got blue hair one day and green hair the next, and it's like this guy looks like he's never got his hands dirty, and he doesn't talk in specifics. He might talk about 2 or 3 properties, but that does not make, and he's too young to have ever weathered a downturn, so he's lacking so much experience.
Yeah, and I understand it. Even me, who's in the business, and I made 7 figures in a few months. I mean, I don't think I'm qualified to teach a course, because it was also in the 2020 when everything was doubling in value. So I feel like my timing was just perfect. So even in the different
experiences, it just takes time. Look, I'm a purple belt in jiu-jitsu, and I've been in jiu-jitsu for like 6.5, 7 years. It takes time to get skills. It just takes time. I think it takes about as much time to become a black belt in real estate, if so to speak. I've had experiences that I've had only happen 1 time or 2 times in 40 years. You follow me? And unless you have that experience, you're lost. You don't know what to do. There's a lot of things that are one-time experiences. And it's been really cool.
I agree.
Yeah. And it's just sensibility and experience is all it is, really. The things they've always told you, pay attention to.
Like they were kind of right.
Yeah, it starts to ring true. Save your money. Don't waste it. Thinking it, buy good stuff. Buy stuff that you can keep rented. Fantastic advice. I've made a lot of money on land, and it's a wonderful thing. You can make a lot very quickly, very fast, flip it. As long as you buy something that's in demand, you can sell it. So, but.
All right. Thank you, Tom.
All right. Thank you.